So, Cyberpunk has just seen a major update, a big patch labeled 1.2, and its size up to 34 gigs, 44 gigs, depending on what machine you're playing on. It's just dropped, and we jumped in to see what's changed. The patch notes are really lengthy. There are tons of bug fixes in this update. The list is super long, but does it make a difference? Many were hoping so. Us here, we liked Cyberpunk as a decent game once you got past all the issues and crap, but it's still far from perfect. But with everything fixed, it could be better. Night City is a world worth experiencing. This patch is a promising start, but it still feels like a big road ahead. A few of us here at GameRanks have pooled our experiences together into this video. Some of us played on PC, where a lot of our experience with the game lies. Some played on base PS4 and a little bit of Xbox, and we are running footage here of PC and PS4 that will be flip-flopping around. Long story short, yes, some bugs are fixed, notable and substantial ones. Some visuals have been slightly tweaked, but core systematic stuff in the game, that's going to take longer if they even get to it. Are they going to make it a stronger RPG? I don't know. That's besides the point. If you were expecting pedestrian AI to suddenly become brilliant and autonomous this time around, no, sorry, that's not the case. It's more of just a bunch of small fixes adding up to more. So firing it up on PC, it's still visually buggy. Just a few minutes after starting it up, we saw flickering shadows on cars, lots of pop-in, and the floating crosswalk sign bug is still in the game, and this is despite us playing on a pretty beefy PC on max settings, which we would play with any other game. On the console front, after the hot fixes, the different updates, and this big 1.2, it does seem like some things look a little better. It does look like reflections are improved a bit, as well as textures looking a little bit sharper in places. You can kind of notice it in the character creator. Street reflections and metal textures look slightly less cheap and weirdly shiny, if that makes sense, but reflections in certain surface areas still have a spotty look to them, almost looking like a pointillism painting. I don't know, I'm not a graphics expert, but back to our experience on PC, it's still got some, I hate using this word, it's kind of played out, but it's got jank, for lack of a better one. Maybe less catastrophic jank, but still some distracting stuff here and there, like people getting stuck in walls. Summoning a car can still be buggy sometimes. Our summoned car was destroyed for some reason when we got to it, though car handling is a lot better. There are substantial changes made here. Motorcycles actually can do knife edge turns now. They handle a lot more like how you'd expect, and car handling itself is just noticeable. It feels a lot better to drive around. Hitting stuff and kind of bouncing around with your car has more of a realistic bounce to it. It's got a substantial feeling of weight behind it. It feels a little bit more like other third-person driving games in an open-world city you kind of expect. The random stuff that you can crash through and drive through has a noticeable effect on cars, so it's not so weightless anymore, and you can actually get stuck in more convincing ways. This is more of a sideways change. Some people might like this stuff, others might not. I didn't think the driving was so bad in the first place, but it does feel different. They put work into it. But we have noticed that because of this, some awkward stuff can happen, like our car getting stuck on top of this barricade. The addition of being able to rock and rotate a car to free it if it gets stuck does kind of help with these situations, but a couple of times we were driving and what would normally just be a slight bump up to a higher elevation meant our car kind of slammed onto it. Not seeing too much of an improvement in NPC panic responses. They still just sit there if you block the road with a car, and they still just do like a canned get out of the car animation and then duck down when you scare them. Sometimes they've run away. It's a little inconsistent. They're supposed to not block traffic according to the patch, but we didn't really see much evidence of that. Maybe just for pedestrian NPCs. Also, throwing a grenade at cars still seems to produce very inconsistent, weird reactions. Cops don't spawn literally on top of you anymore, which is nice. That's a big change. They still appear very close, and it's still pretty awkward and canned compared to police responses in something like other open world games like GTA, Red Dead, hell, even something like a Skyrim, I don't know. But it is noticeably better, and it's just a good example. It shows that they're paying attention, and they are fixing the things that bothered people. This all might have introduced more bugs, though. We saw a really weird one where V was T-posing, half rendered while driving a car in third person. This hasn't happened to us, before the 1.2 patch release, at least. We have seen it in a couple of glitch videos, but we never had that problem before, and then for it to suddenly start happening when we started playing now, kind of weird. Punching people with the gorilla arms cybertech still causes their legs to go crazy sometimes. We can also confirm that the sliding off ledges to avoid fall damage trick doesn't work anymore, which is kind of a big bummer. It was a cool thing to do if you could pull it off. But then as we all kept playing and taking notes, there was some more random bugs and weirdness. I'll just run through them. We saw some typos that maybe we didn't notice before on loading screens, another floating crosswalk sign, a ladder that keeps going through the ground so you can't get off it normally, you just have to jump off of it. Even major missions have a lot of still noticeable visual bugs even after this patch. We played Riders on the Storm and saw multiple immersion breaking bugs. Nothing that ruins the game, but still inconsistent and looks rough. And after talking about games for so long, we've learned that there are different people that have different level of tolerance for this stuff. Some people can laugh this off and keep playing the game. Other people see this and are pissed they spent $60 and the game's busted and they walk away. Some people can put up with some glitches. Some people can't tolerate a single one. And you know, this Riders on the Storm mission is a pretty interesting example. We saw a lot of shadow flickering on the desert brush, a weird glitch where a crane appeared in front of the warehouse it was in for a second, Pan floating off the ground and walking on nothing for a second, the animation on Saul glitching out before you inject him with the super jet. Keep in mind, all this stuff is from one mission. They're minor, but that's from less than 30 minutes of playtime. That's a lot of weird graphical visual glitches for just one section of the game. Now, combat, economy, and most major gameplay systems feel completely unchanged. They did take out a few little tricks and exploits though, like we said, but yeah, that's worth noting that like they didn't just change how the first-person shooting works or anything, and that's fine. We didn't expect that, like we said. Now, the overall stability improvements, importantly, seem to have taken effect. The game was most prone to crashing when transitioning from one section of the city to another, at least for us a lot of the time, and we haven't experienced any crashes while testing that. It might still be a problem though. This is of course anecdotal, but still, the game overall after these hotfixes and patches seems to be less prone to catastrophic failure, which is good considering we bought this. Console side, the base PS4 Xbox version does feel the most playable it has been. It's a little bit less blurry, and like, yeah, the pop-in is really bad, but it was fairly playable and we didn't run into crashes or any crazy issues other than the game looking kind of ugly in spots and similar glitches and stuff that we referenced earlier. Nothing really game breaking, and that's good, but the most important thing I did want to impress once again is that this seems like a long road. This is a very, very staggeringly long list of minor fixes and tweaks and updates to a lot of things, but still, it doesn't totally change the big picture yet, at least for us. We're happy that CD Projekt Red didn't run for the hills and kind of drag their feet fixing this stuff. Yes, they had to delay this last patch, but still, it's out here. We're experiencing it now. This is good. We're hoping that things get better in the future. Obviously, if you just don't like Cyberpunk, maybe you just don't like the RPG elements or, you know, just some of the promises it didn't meet, then they're probably not going to change that. But if you had a problem with how the game felt, how it looked in certain spots, some of the glitches, game-breaking stuff, that now seems like it's definitely going to get better over time if CD Projekt Red's behavior like this and their work continues. So that's where we're at here. That's just some first impressions from a couple of us here, but you know, since we're able to just fire up the game immediately, start playing, taking notes, capturing footage, we figured we'd at least give you guys some of our findings. Hopefully some of the random things we mentioned maybe answered some of your questions out there. Personally, like me, just Jake talking, I would say still, if you held off, I'd say it doesn't hurt to continue to wait. I think there's still some more work to be done because the stakes are pretty low at this point. If you've already waited this long, you can probably wait a little longer. I just can't help but root for games to get better. You know, if a crappy game ends up eventually turning into a good game, even if I got burned in the beginning, at least there's still a good game out there. That works out sometimes, obviously with No Man's Sky. It doesn't work out sometimes, like with Anthem, RIP. But Cyberpunk might deserve a better shot, a fairer shake, you know? Putting all the BS that happened at launch aside, also, if you've been playing Cyberpunk or if you played through the whole thing and had a good time and didn't really experience much issue or just have any problems at all, good for you. We're happy for you. We're not like discounting your experience. We just definitely strongly feel that this new patch isn't the end all be all. It doesn't fix anything and there's a lot more work to be done, really. And that's pretty much the gist of it for now. But hey, this is just us, of course. This is some information we wanted to give to you guys. We want to hear your experiences down in the comments, though, because experiences do seem to vary. We've seen some people just coming out on social media and saying, it fixes everything. This is the best game ever. Really? I don't know about that. But whatever your experience is, whether it changed anything you had a problem with, or it's not enough, or if it's perfect, let us know what you think about the 1.2 patch and really everything that's been fixed up until this point. If you enjoyed this video, though, and maybe we helped inform you a little bit with our insights, be sure to click the like button, because that helps us a lot. We would really appreciate that. But if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.